Hi, everyone, and welcome to Revenge by Larry. I appreciate you being here. This one is worth your time, so watch it through to the end and leave a comment with your honest opinion. I was scrambling eggs when Jenna's phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced out of habit. Just her sister Tessa. The message preview read, "Can I borrow the dress for a quick shoot?" I almost yelled, "Tell her yes," because you help family, right? But the second I saw the rest of the message, I stopped cold. 2 weeks back, Tessa had borrowed my driver's license, said it was for a delivery verification. I didn't even think twice, just handed it over like a fool. Now something felt off. I grabbed the tablet we use in the kitchen and pulled up Tessa's Instagram. She'd posted earlier that morning, 6:22 in the morning, which was really weird. Tessa doesn't do mornings unless there's champagne involved. First pick, normal. Rooftop bar, generic smile, cocktail raised, hair curled like she's trying to impress a realtor. Then I swiped, and my stomach just dropped. There she was, in a full wedding dress, off-shoulder, beadwork detail, very long train. The exact style Jenna picked last spring after 10 fittings and a near panic attack in a dressing room. Caption: "When you find the one bride, sap her finally." Location tag: Maple Crest Conservatory, our venue. Not a similar place, the actual one. The one we booked with a deposit 9 months ago. Next slide was a close-up of a ring. Vintage style, rose gold, curved setting. I recognized it immediately. I'd shown that ring to Tessa last month when Jenna was trying to pick between metals. It was my grandfather's ring. The one in our lockbox. Then came the save the date graphic. I swear my hands went numb. September 28th, 2026. Names: Tessa Barrett and Victor Hale. My name, my date, my venue. I backed out and double-checked the venue's tag. Same ballroom. Same floral wall we picked. Tessa hadn't just mocked something up. She was using our actual wedding info like she owned it. Jenna walked into the kitchen in pajama shorts and saw my face. "What's wrong?" she asked. I turned the screen to her. She stared, blinked, and went paper white. "It's got to be a joke," she said. "She can't possibly think—" I didn't say a word. I just opened our wedding email thread and searched Maple Crest. Up popped a message from Midnight. Request to update the bride's name from Jenna to Tessa. Same date, same contract number, same details, down to the room size and guest count. Sender: Jenna's email. I showed her. She shook her head confused. "I didn't write that," she said. I believed her. I also knew what was coming next. Quick note: before we go further, share in the comments where you're watching from. And let's continue. Elise said she hadn't processed the change yet, was just awaiting verbal confirmation. That phrase stuck with me like a splinter. Someone had already emailed all the right contract numbers. All they needed was a yes. "No changes," I told her. "We're coming in tomorrow with IDs and everything signed. Lock the file until then." "Of course," she said, and I could hear her typing. "I'm sorry, I really am." I hung up and opened the planning folder Jenna and I shared. It was a mess. Timestamps showed activity at 2:41 a.m. Flower spreadsheet, menu sheet, photographer shortlist. Everything had been opened, skimmed, touched. Jenna leaned over my shoulder. "Wait, what time did you say?" Her face fell. I logged into my email on her iPad, like a month ago, pulled some engagement pics for my mom. I never logged out. That was it. That's how Tessa got in. She didn't need to break in. Jenna left the door wide open. "She's in the folder," Jenna said, almost whispering. Like saying it out loud would make it less twisted. We dropped everything and started calling vendors. First was the florist. A woman answered and said, "Oh, we just got your email yesterday about the bride's first name change." "No," I said. "That wasn't us. Do not change anything." The photographer? Same story. There was an email asking if the welcome sign could be reprinted with Tessa Barrett and Victor Hale. They even attached the original graphic with edits marked in red. The baker was next. He told us someone had emailed on behalf of the bride, asking if a friend's wedding could use our exact Mountain Ridge cake design. Same reference photos. Same custom sketch Jenna had cried over when it was finalized. Jenna closed her eyes and pressed her fingers into her temples. This can't be real. Why would she even want this? I could think of 3 answers right away. Attention, jealousy, and some dark, sick spite that doesn't even care about winning, just hurting you enough that you fall apart in public. I went back to the venue email from Elise and opened the internal alert she'd forwarded. It was a duplicate file notice from their booking system, 2 names tied to the same event code. The note listed TB as the initiating party. She tried to switch brides, I said, and straight up. If we hadn't pushed back, we would have shown up to the venue and walked into a lobby full of people thinking I was marrying her. My throat burned, but it wasn't rage. It was something deeper, uglier. She didn't just want to steal the spotlight. She wanted to humiliate Jenna, make her watch it fall apart with all eyes on her like this was a game. I pulled up the venue voicemail archive from our email thread. The last one came in at 12:17 a.m. A woman's voice asked if security could hold a private note for guests at check-in. She said she wanted it to be discreet and sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced. I didn't even need the rest. I knew what that note would have said. The wedding's off. The groom chose the sister. Please don't ask questions. I stepped away from the table, heart pounding. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked straight to the bedroom and grabbed the fireproof envelope from under the bed, the one with our license, contracts, and venue receipts. I came back and dropped it on the table. Jenna looked at it, then at me. Her hands were shaking now too. "We're going to need every single piece of this documented," I said. I pulled out my phone and opened the bank app. Within seconds, I saw it. 2 pending requests to add a new authorized user on a backup card I hadn't touched since last winter. Name listed T. Barrett. Then I checked my credit monitoring app. There was a failed email change attempt tied to my main account, blocked, only because I had 2-factor turned on back in April. One more click and she would have had full control. Name, email, address, everything. Jenna leaned over, face tight. "She used your license," she said. "You gave it to her for that stupid package." "Yeah," I clenched my jaw. "That's on me." I felt like an idiot, like I'd handed my wallet to a stranger and told them to take their time. I went straight to the hall closet and grabbed the small lockbox we keep tucked behind the winter boots. The ring was still there, same velvet box, same tiny appraisal tag tucked underneath. I lifted the ring to the light and checked the gallery. Tiny scratch, left side, just like the receipt showed. The one on her Instagram? Clean. No blemishes, no marks. It had to be a copy. "She bought a fake," I said. "Probably some antique dupe from a listing that looked close enough in a 5-second scroll." Jenna didn't blink. Just stood with her arms folded, eyes fixed on the ring like it might vanish. "She's building a whole narrative," I said. "Dress photos, copied ring, edited contract files. She wants to show up early, claim the venue, and tell guests we're already together." "She doesn't even like you," Jenna said, and her voice cracked for the first time. "Why do this?" "It's not about liking me," I said. "It's about hurting you and proving she can take something just because she wants it." Jenna didn't cry. Her chin shook once, but she kept it locked down. She nodded when I said we needed to call the cops. Not out of anger, just out of cold, clear logic. "She's still my sister," she said after a long pause. "And she's trying to steal your wedding and my identity," I said. "This isn't some meltdown. It's a crime." I sat at the kitchen table and started pulling files. Screenshots with timestamps, bank alerts, credit logs, voicemails, the florist's reply, the email from the boutique. I dumped it all into a fresh folder on my desktop and named it September 28th Evidence. The folder looked like it weighed 10 pounds. I called the non-emergency line and gave the short version. The woman on the other end didn't sound surprised. "Save everything," she said. "Don't delete, don't alter. If you can get a verbal admission recorded, we'll have something strong to escalate." "No confrontation yet?" I asked. "Not without a plan," she said. "Document. Let us handle the rest." Jenna was clearing off. Was carry wish they came out the coffee table when Tessa's text came in at exactly 6:14. It read, "So can I swing by and grab the dress bag? Promise I'll be careful." The smiley face at the end made my skin crawl. Jenna didn't flinch. She typed back, "Yes, 8:30. Come alone." Her hands didn't even shake. Mine did. I went into the office and pulled out my old work laptop. The thing took forever to boot, but it still ran. I set it on the living room bookshelf, tilted the lid just enough to see the couch and frame. Webcam on, mic hot, screen brightness all the way down. Then I grabbed my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and tested the mic 3 times before setting it face down under a magazine on the coffee table. The room looked normal, casual, but it was wired tight. Jenna walked through with the dress bag slung over one shoulder and hung it on the hall closet hook. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. I printed everything: vendor emails, the contract switch request, the credit card alerts, and stuffed it into a manila folder. That went right on the table next to a water glass. I tucked the lockbox in the bedroom and cracked the door halfway so I could grab it if she brought up the ring. I didn't want to tip our hand too early, but I wasn't about to fumble if the chance came. Jenna finally looked at me and said, "What if she just smiles and lies?" "Then we let the facts do the work," I told her. "We're not arguing, we're collecting." Before it got dark, I moved my car to the curb. If things went sideways, I didn't want her blocking the driveway. Small prep, but I believe in exits. Always have. At 8:25, I put a sticky notepad on the armrest and wrote the time in big black numbers. 8:29. Porch light. The sensor had clicked on just like it was supposed to. 2 minutes later, 8:31. Doorbell. I wrote it fast, heart thudding in my ears. Then I stood and opened the door at 8:32 exactly. Tessa stood there like she was showing up for a dinner party. Casual jeans, light makeup, a bottle of red in her hand. She smiled like we were old friends who just happened to survive some drama. "Hey, you two," she said, walking right in. "Hope I'm not too early." I shut the door behind her and said, "Not at all." Behind me, Jenna stood still as stone, arms crossed. Before anything else happened, I looked at her and said one thing, low and solid: "We're a team." No matter what she says. Jenna nodded once. "No matter what." "You two are the best," she said, glancing between us. "Seriously, this shoot is going to help my brand so much." I leaned back against the chair and kept my voice light. "What's the shoot supposed to be? What's the theme you're selling?" "Oh, you know," she said, flipping her hair and waving a hand. "Creative, light, airy. Just vibes people love right now." I nodded once and picked up the remote. "Like the ring you posted?" I asked, as the television lit up with her Instagram. The photo filled the screen, perfect lighting, perfect angle, no scratch anywhere on the band. Her mouth tightened for half a second. "Inspiration," she said too fast. "Pinterest is full of rings like that." Jenna didn't raise her voice when she spoke, but it cut clean. "Then why tag Maple Crest? Why tag our venue at all?" The color drained around Tessa's lips. She swallowed and forced a small laugh. "I tag places to help them out. Free exposure never hurts anyone." I slid the manila folder across the table until it rested in front of her hands. Inside were vendor emails, the contract switch request, the alert showing duplicate files, and the authorized user attempts on my card. I didn't explain any of it. She opened the folder and started flipping. At first she moved slow, like she was skimming a menu. Then her pace picked up, pages snapping under her fingers. She stopped when she hit the venue alert. "You always get everything," she said quietly. "Perfect wedding, perfect guy, perfect house. I'm always the one people whisper about when I leave the room." Jenna stayed silent. She didn't nod or interrupt. She just watched, arms folded, eyes steady. Tessa laughed once, sharp and hollow. "I was actually going to help you," she said. "I'd show up early and tell people the wedding was off. I'd save you the embarrassment of him leaving you in front of everyone." I leaned forward enough that she had to look at me. "By impersonating my fiancé," I said, "at our venue, on our date." "By telling the truth," she snapped, then froze when the words landed. I tapped the magazine on the coffee table, then pointed to the barely cracked laptop lid on the shelf. "Say that again," I said. She blinked, then smiled, and there was something broken in it. "Go ahead and call the police," she said. "Tell them your sad sister tried to borrow a dress and got dramatic." I didn't raise my voice. "This isn't about a dress," I said. "It's about vendors you lied to, a legal contract you tried to change, and credit accounts you tried to access." She stood up too fast and bumped the table with her knee. The wine sloshed inside the bottle, dark against the glass. "You can't prove any of that," she said, eyes darting. "We already did," I said, and Jenna lifted her chin toward the shelf. "The tiny recording light was there if you knew to look for it." Tessa's jaw tightened. "Everyone already thinks I'm the failure," she said. "What's one more label supposed to do?" "The difference," I said, standing, "is this one comes with a case number." She stared at me, eyes flat and hard, then nodded once. "Fine," she said. "Do it." I reached under the magazine and pressed stop on the recorder. I walked into the hallway, shut the door behind me, and called the non-emergency line. My thumb shook against the screen, but I kept my voice even. The dispatcher listened, didn't interrupt, and transferred me to a patrol unit before I even finished the last sentence. When the officer picked up, I started from the timeline. "I've got notes, times, a folder with printed emails, and a recording where she outlines what she planned." He told me to sit tight. The squad car pulled up at 911. Two officers stepped out, both in their 40s, calm, clear-eyed, like they'd seen weirder things in better neighborhoods. One knocked on the door while the other stood back by the walkway. I opened it and said, "She's in the living room. We'd like to file a report for attempted fraud and identity tampering." "Is she cooperative?" one asked. "She thinks this is a joke," I said, "but she hasn't left." They walked in and asked her to stay seated while they separated us. One officer took Jenna and me into the kitchen. The other stayed with Tessa. "Do you have the engagement ring she posted about?" the officer asked me. "In the lockbox," I said. I brought it over, set it on the table, and opened it. Inside was the original ring and the appraisal dated 6 months back. He took photos of the appraisal and the ring itself, then asked to see the venue email, the name change request, and the credit alerts. I showed him the folder, flipped each page while he took notes. He read every vendor name out loud and circled the Maple Crest logo with his pen. In the other room, I could hear Tessa trying on stories like coats. It was a misunderstanding, then it was for content, then something about a social experiment. The officer didn't push, just let her talk. "What's the reason behind the contract change?" he finally asked her. Tessa's voice lifted, sharp, defensive. "Because he picked me." My jaw tightened. "I didn't," I called out. "There's never been anything between us. Ever." The second officer came around the corner and said, "That's enough." He pulled out the little booklet and started reading her rights. When the cuffs came out, she blinked like she still hadn't decided if we were serious. "You're really doing this?" she said. "To family?" I looked right at her. "Family doesn't try to wreck your life." My voice felt like it came from gravel. Jenna didn't speak. She stood there with her back to the counter, arms tight around her ribs. They walked Tessa out to the car. No drama. No struggle. She didn't say a word once the door closed behind her. Jenna opened the freezer, grabbed 2 ice packs, and handed me one without looking. She pressed hers to her wrist and leaned against the counter. Outside, the porch light stayed on. Inside, the silence finally felt like something real. We drove to Jenna's parents' place the next afternoon. They lived about 15 minutes away in a beige ranch with a porch swing that never moved unless her mom cleaned it. I pulled into the driveway and didn't turn off the engine until Jenna said, "Let's just do it." Inside, her mom was already in the kitchen wiping a spotless counter. Her dad sat at the table with the local paper folded in half and a glass of iced tea that hadn't been touched. Jenna didn't bother easing into it. She said, "Tessa was arrested last night," and placed the manila folder on the table. Her mom's face crumpled. "What? What are you talking about?" "She used my email," Jenna said. "She accessed our files, tried to claim our wedding venue, and used his identity to change the contract. She was going to announce that the wedding was off and that I'd left Jenna for her," I added. "The police have a full report. It's not a theory." Her mom sat down slow, like her knees were made of glass. "You had her arrested? She admitted what she did," Jenna said, "and we recorded it." Her mom's voice cracked. "You're overreacting. You didn't need to. She's your sister." "She needs help," I said, keeping my voice low but firm. "But she also needs consequences. This wasn't a tantrum. It was targeted and planned." Her dad hadn't said a word. He stared at the folder. Jenna opened it and started laying out the papers: venue change request, email logs, card alerts, the photo of the fake ring. She didn't push them toward him. She just set them down and let him read. When he got to the save the date with September 28th next to Tessa's name, he stopped moving. He took off his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his shirt, even though they were already spotless. "We always said she runs hot," her mom said weakly. "She gets carried away." "She set an alarm for 2:30 in the morning and worked down a list," I said. "That's not carried away, that's calculated." Her dad finally looked up. "What happens now?" "There'll be a detective assigned," I said. "They'll probably file for identity theft and fraud. We gave them everything." "We'll support therapy," he said, "but we won't stand in the way of the law." Jenna nodded once. "Thank you." Her mom didn't say anything else. She just stared down at the photo of the ring, blinking fast like she was trying not to cry in front of us. We didn't stay long. On the drive home, Jenna stared out the passenger window the whole way. She finally said, "I kept telling myself she'd grow out of it. Every year? I thought if I was patient enough, it would get better." "Some people don't grow," I said. "They just get better at aiming it." Back at the house, we sat down and wrote out 3 new rules. No shared passwords with extended family, code words on every vendor call, no wedding changes unless both of us are present. It felt like locking the door after a break-in. Too late to stop the hit, just in time to keep it from happening again. Maple Crest called us in first thing the next morning. We showed up with 2 forms of ID each, driver's licenses, passports, and Elise met us at the front desk with her shoulders hunched like she expected to be yelled at. She apologized 6 separate times before we even sat down. "I've flagged everything manually," she said. "You now have a code phrase on file. Any change request needs it, even from your emails." "What's the phrase?" I asked. Jenna answered before I could. No more surprises. Elise typed it into the file and nodded. After that, she introduced us to Ron and Keegan, the two security guys who'd be working the wedding. Ron was older, stocky, had that no-nonsense stare you see in corrections officers. Keegan looked like a former bouncer, with a calm voice that made people freeze up without knowing why. We walked the entry route and talked logistics, guest check-ins, name lists, what to do if someone tried to slip through early. Don't be polite, I told them. If they're not on the list, hold them. We left the venue and spent the next 2 hours calling vendors. I kept it simple. 1 voice password per vendor, 1 follow-up text confirmation, and a hard no to any design changes, unless they got the new safe word. Jenna picked it. Greenlight Ridge. It meant nothing to anyone else, but we'd both remember it. We moved the ceremony up 45 minutes, didn't tell anyone why, just locked it in. I asked my buddy Caleb to float near the lobby and text me if he saw anything weird. I sent 1 group message to the wedding party, short and sharp. No changes unless from me or Jenna. Do not share contact info with anyone. Then I built a spreadsheet. Each vendor got a line. Last contact date, point of contact name, code phrase, and a column for odd requests. It took 35 minutes, and by the time I finished, my brain finally felt like it wasn't on fire. That night, Jenna stepped into the bedroom wearing her dress one more time. She looked in the mirror, held it for a second, then teared up and let the tears fall. Exactly 4 seconds. Then she wiped her face, nodded once, and said, "Okay, enough." We didn't put the lockbox back in the closet. I drove it over to my cousin Seth's place in Fairfield and told him to keep it for a week. Not because I thought someone would break in. I just didn't want another fake photo floating around the internet. 0 chances. Back home, I checked Tessa's account one last time. No stories, no new posts. Nothing since the night of the arrest. Silence can mean relief, or it can mean a countdown. Either way, I didn't give it the satisfaction. I shut the laptop, turned to Jenna, and said, "We're ready." The detective called on a Monday morning, exactly 8 days after the arrest. His tone was dry, professional. "The DA's office is moving forward," he said. "Charges are identity theft and attempted fraud. That recording you gave us, that's what sealed it." I thanked him and hung up, then just sat there with the phone in my hand. Not angry, not proud, just done. 2 weeks later, we got word through the court clerk. Tessa had taken a plea deal. No jail time. She got probation, was ordered into mandatory counseling, and the judge put a 24-month no-contact order in place. No calls, no texts, no accidental run-ins. If she broke it, she'd go straight to sentencing. Her lawyer mailed 1 letter. Not an apology. No explanation. Just 9 words written in stiff cursive across the middle of the page. "I hope you're satisfied with how this ended." I read it twice, folded it back up, and slipped it into the same folder we gave to the detective. Not because I needed to keep it, but because I didn't want it floating around in the house. Jenna never opened it. Her mom called the next day and asked if we could lighten things. I told her the court already had. No jail, no fines, just structure. That was the soft option. We kept the story simple when family asked questions. No drama, no side plots. There was fraud. Law handled it. We're fine. That's all anyone needed to know. I pulled my credit report weekly for a month, called all 3 bureaus, and locked everything for 90 days, just to be safe. After that, I kept the freeze going. It didn't cost anything, and I slept better with it on. Then I started tracking the vendors. I bought a little black notebook and made a page for each one. Balance paid, service date, contact name, and initials. It felt weird at first, like I was prepping for a tax audit, but it gave me control. I filled it out every morning for a week. By the end of that week, I was sleeping straight through the night again. Jenna stopped checking Tessa's socials after that. I stopped too. There wasn't anything left to see. We didn't talk about forgiveness, not once. Not because we were bitter, but because that conversation didn't matter anymore. Some things don't go back in the box. We didn't forgive. We didn't forget. We just moved forward. Moving forward sometimes feels like dragging something heavy across a room with no one offering to help. You keep going anyway. I've carried heavier. On September 28th, we got married with 36 people, 2 security guards, and a code phrase no one ever asked us to say. The morning felt normal: coffee, toast, and a text from Caleb reminding me not to forget the license. It wasn't glamorous. It was ordinary. That's exactly what I wanted. At the front desk, Maple Crest had a printout with our full names, our time slot, and the code phrase highlighted in yellow. I didn't even think about last month until I passed the bench near the entryway, the one where a note almost waited. It was empty. The ceremony started on time. Vows were short. I didn't try to write anything fancy. I told Jenna I'd show up, even on the days that feel like car trouble and cold leftovers. She smiled the way she does when she trusts me to mean it. Afterward, her dad hugged me tight and said, "Thank you for taking care of my girl when I didn't know how." I told him I'd keep doing it, and I meant that more than anything I'd said into a microphone. The reception stayed small. No DJ, just a playlist, ribeye bites, and my cousin's cornbread that always disappears first. I danced 2 times, which was more than I expected. Once with Jenna, once with her mom, who didn't say anything but didn't let go too fast either. Right before dessert, Elise came over with her clipboard in one hand and a tired smile on her face. "We had someone call yesterday," she said. "Asked if changes could be made to signage. I don't need to tell you we declined." We took photos under the maple trees out back. The wind kicked up leaves just right, like nature was trying to play along. I looked at Jenna in her dress and felt something shift in my chest. My shoulders finally unclenched. My grandfather's ring sat on my hand like it belonged there. I turned it just enough to catch the light. Thought about the fake one Tessa posted. It looked clean. But it didn't have the story. Ours had weight. Before we left, I slipped an envelope to Ron and Keegan. Gift cards, a thank you, and a note that just said, "Quiet wins." They smiled like they understood. The following week, the boutique told me they'd flagged our dress pattern. Any request to photograph it now goes straight to management. One rule, one ripple. Sometimes I think about calling Tessa just to ask if she's getting help. Then I remember how she smiled when she said she'd humiliate Jenna. Some bridges don't burn, they get cut on purpose. Did we go too far? My counselor said no. My gut agrees. Family is trust, not access. Love is a promise, not a loophole. And the strongest move a man can make isn't revenge. It's closing the door, keeping his word, and living well in the life someone tried to steal. Quick gut check. If someone in your family tried to hijack your life the way Tessa did ours, where would you draw the line? Private talk, hard distance, or police? If you've got hype, please tap it to boost this video so more people see it. And if you can, subscribe and hit like. It's huge for us and takes one click. Drop a comment, "Good story," or tell me what you'd actually do and why.